Y'all, we gotta talk about this reunion. These folks are off the chain. I think the only couple that was pretty much low key was Lindy and Miguel. Everybody else was, whoa. Anyway, we gotta talk about what happened. This mess between Nate and Justin. Looked like some folks decided they weren't ready to be married, and so much more. Welcome back to Romance Review TV with Lady T. Got another recap for you guys. Married at First Sight, Season 15, The Reunion, Part 1. And without any further ado, let's talk about what happened. Okay, so back in the building, we got good old Kevin Frazier, the dude who always get to the bottom of every little thing, and he seems to always be so messy. And this particular reunion is no exception. So he formally introduced everybody, hey, everybody's looking good. Everybody glad to see each other, and it started off great because I didn't know where they're going to bring this drama in. And so they talked about how Nate and Stacia was the most sexiest and spiciest couple this season, especially with all of the scenes that they had, everything from the shower to being blindfolded at that little hideaway on the retreat. And then we can't forget about that swing that they had where, they had some fun. Oh, yeah, one more other thing we can't forget about is the vibrating panties, which, I think Stacia said she couldn't sit down because either he didn't know what he was doing with it, but he had it running for a good 25-30 minutes. Ooh, and she said she was numb too. Anywho, it started off a good note with these two. Well, Kevin Frazier gets real messy, and he had to know about this whole blocking situation. Well, he brought up the whole blocking situation and asked if anybody still keep in touch with each other or anybody block them. And Justin was like, well, okay, you know what? I ain't going to say nothing. And then Nate, instigating Nate, had to push the button to say, oh, yeah, he just about blocked everybody. And I think we need to know why. And this opened up Pandora's box with this whole messy drama between him and Justin. Now, the thing about this, and I'm going to talk my way through this because it led from somebody blocking somebody all the way until them start calling each other's name. He being too emotional, and then, of course, we see Justin saying that he hit on him. And so, of course, it left us at a commercial break. But when it came back from the commercial break, he goes in to say how before the whole experiment, when they were all together, he kept hitting on him by giving him all these compliments about what you need to come here for. You a man, you don't need to be at this place dating, your smooth skin and all of that. And I guess because he said it more than once, twice, Justin took that as Nate hitting on him instead of just being a compliment. And so, of course, Nate took offense to that to say, hey, why you want to call me gay? This whole thing was really interesting on both sides because it's like, why are you getting so defensive? And then, of course, Justin, why are you blowing the compliment out of proportion? It was just absolutely ridiculous. And I just prayed that I hope that the production team didn't have them just come up with this mess just for drama, because it's not a good look with these two men. It's just not. Anywho, it goes back and forth. And of course, Nate wouldn't let it go. It's like he kept egging it on. I mean, so much so that even when we saw Alexis kind of pull him to the side, take him away, get him calmed down, I actually thought for a moment they were back together because they seemed pretty cool. Because she back there talking about, you're here from you and you're here from me. I'm like, okay. But anywho, these two get into a whole melee. Check it out. And it's interesting how some of them thought it was funny. Anyway, again, what was the interaction that was going on between Alexis and Justin in the back room? Because I don't know. It seemed like, at first for a moment, I thought they was back together. The way she was talking to him and the way he was, considering her feelings of the fact, like, we're here for us. Like they was a united front or something. He comes back. I'm like, Nate, let it go. And he kept pushing the issue. Well, it just kept going on. And I'm like, oh my God. Nate, let it go. Justin, let it go. He obviously says that he's not gay. Justin, he was not hitting on you. Let's just move on. But this took up at least 20 minutes of the first half of the show. And he seemed like, meaning Justin, decided to calm down, but Nate just wouldn't let it go. I don't know what's up with that. And I was looking at social media and some of the comment sections, and a lot of folks was like, they had what they said about Justin, but that's the fact that Nate was so defensive over this thing. Yeah, it was just way too much for me. So then Justin breaks down why he blocked each and every one of them. He didn't like Kristen because she was fake. Miguel and Lindy, I guess, ditched him for going hiking, so he blocked them too. Then he gave a description when it came to Stacia, but Stacia really hasn't done anything, but she's only guilty by association with Nate. So that's why he claimed to have blocked her. And yeah, I don't. And of course, Ben and Morgan, he's not talking to them either. Go figure. And we know why Ben is mad at him, but we're going to talk about that later. But Nate is still poking the bear. And I mean, Kevin was like, come on now, guys, cut it out, stop. So now we talk to each of the couples. The first couple that Kevin talked to is Miguel and Lindy. Now, one of the biggest conversations that they talked about is, the girl looked gorgeous. I gotta say, that dress is beautiful on her. And obviously gold, the rose gold tones are her color. But they hit it off from the beginning. They were one of the strongest couples this season. And they kind of reflected back on, their journey on the show. Now, in the reunion part of this, they talked a lot about not only, the fact that she now does Dungeons and Dragons with him once a week. And she's happy about that. The other thing that came up, which is what they needed to work on. And so they both decided that, and especially Miguel, that he made a lot of mistakes in how he handled situations with Lindy. And then she said that she also had to work on some things as well. The other thing, too, is the issue with the last name, taking on his last name. So she mutually decided that they were going to do hyphenated names for her. And so now she wears the Santiago last name and her current last name. And when it comes to kids, she wants one tonight. And he was like, yeah, let's just give it a year or so. So they're fine. Let's move on. So our next couple is Dasha and Nate. And this one is a little tricky for me because they were strong during the season. But I think the problem in this relationship is Stacia. Stacia is always moving the goalpost when it comes to Mr. Nate. And he wants, some credit for the stuff that he is doing in the relationship. Now, when they were asked about their past and how they connected in the beginning, he was happy, she was happy, everything is great. Now, we've already talked about their sexual escapades throughout the journey, and so they definitely have that connection. However, there's always a disconnect somewhere because she always want more. But. Me, what can you do? What about this? What about that? But this, but that. And he's like, but I am doing this, but I am doing that, and I am doing this. I'm also doing that too. And he's not getting the credit that he feels. She says that she's giving him the credit, but it's not the way he wanted. And I'm like, oh, this is not looking good. And then the other thing is that he's living part-time with her. They're not in the same place. He got 8 months onto his lease. Now, I know that some folks in the comment section on social media was saying the math ain't mathing because did he renew his lease after the season or what? So the reunion was at the end of August. The decision day was the first week of April. If he had 8 more months, that means somewhere around the month of April, he renewed his lease. So was he not sure that he was going to say yes on decision day? I don't know. I do have to say that little DIY board was really cute. And she has a YouTube channel where she do all of her DIY type of stuff. So that's probably one of the things that hopefully she gave him credit for, which is paying attention to some of the things that she loves to do. Kids. This girl is 37. She'll be 38 years old. He's 35, maybe 36. Problem is that he want to wait a few years. She want one in a year. I don't see these two making it. I had high hopes for them, but it's just way too many issues that they have to overcome, even though they decided to stay married. So we got to keep an eye out to see what's going to happen to these two. Okay, next up is Kristen and Mitch. Now, these two have had a tumultuous relationship, to say the least. Of course, Kevin goes in. I'm surprised they didn't bring up the whole clip about her mother. I don't know if Kristen saw that. But the biggest thing they talked about is his attraction to her. And, you know, a lot of people have comments because I'm telling you, when they initially posted Justin before the season started, there are a lot of people that were very vocal about how attractive he was. But when it came to Mitch saying about her, it was a different story. You know, we cut it down the middle over here. My thing is, I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Everybody is not my cup of tea. I'm not going to be attracted to everybody I come across. So I can understand where Mitch is coming from. The fact of the matter is, it's his delivery. And I think the way he said it, I don't know how he could have said it nicer. Maybe he shouldn't have said it at all. But it didn't sit well with Kristen. So that was one of the things. The other thing came up about her not wearing makeup, the conversation he had with her sister. And then there's this whole thing about Hobbygate. He asked, does she have hobbies? She said, do I look like I have hobbies? Don't you see me doing stuff every day? I hate when men say that women don't have hobbies. But that's not what he said, Kristen. He just asked, do you have a hobby? When she broke it all down, he said, yes, okay, you got a hobby. That's all you had to say. Sometimes people make things a lot more complicated than they are. But these two are not a match. I think he realized that he was not ready to be married. And I think Kevin realized that too. All right, next up is Morgan and Ben. Now, with these two, you can tell that they either had some closure with each other. You know, they came to a reconciliation. I don't know about, of course, we found out they're not together or interested in a romantic situation, but they have reconciled whatever issues. Now, they did talk about the connection that they had in the beginning because, yeah, Morgan was really attracted to Ben. He was happy about the situation of him having a wife and her. They had a lot of fun together with the things that, you know, they did in activities, and he was always supportive of the things that she wanted to do. Of course, the whole thing about the nursing came out, and so she made it perfectly clear, and so did Ben, that she had been a nurse for 3 years, and he apologized for all of that. Again, I don't know if they made that a big scene and blew that up, but they could easily verify whether this girl was a nurse or not. Whatever. Anyway, so they cleared that up. He asked them if maybe they, ended this whole process too soon. And she was like, nope, I pretty much knew, after the whole thing with Justin putting, his conversations on blast about her, that she was done. She was over it. But he said a month after the whole divorce that they had, they did come back together and have a conversation. And they hashed it all out, so they're in a good place now. Okay, so they left us with a cliffhanger with this particular couple. They came in, reintroduced themselves after that whole melee that Justin had with Nate earlier in the episode. And one of the questions that Kevin brought up was the fact of them consummating the marriage a lot sooner than what we thought. Now, this ties into an after party episode where Keisha Knight Pulliam asked Alexis about it, and she said that he attempted or wasn't successful. However, this was the same couple that had said that they loved each other earlier in the season. And of course, we heard Justin say that love is a choice for him. And that is correct. It is a choice. But when we get back to the conversation at hand about this whole thing, he said, well, she had an orgasm, or at least I thought she did, and I had one. And then she started making all these weird faces. Maybe she faked it. I don't know, but obviously from what she said on the after party, and I even did a recap video on that because of his attempt that he wasn't successful and all of that, and kind of put him on blast in front of the world. Yeah, and you could tell by Kevin's face, he don't know what to think of that whole situation. Alexis obviously didn't find the sexual activity as satisfying, whereas of course Justin called her a gaslighter, and he's sick and tired of her gaslighting. And then it goes back into this whole thing. We haven't even touched the dog situation, which we'll probably get next week, but this whole situation is a hot mess. These two, somebody's lying, because then there's the whole thing about her calling him drunk, trying to come over to the house. She said it never happened. I don't know what's going on with these two. Is she trying to save face, or is he actually lying? Because he called her a pathological liar. So, you know what? Justin is just not connecting with anybody on this panel, including his ex-wife. And yeah, at this point, I know he probably can't wait till they say cut and everybody go home. But we'll see what happens next week. Okay, so let's get the conversation started down in the comments section. What do you think about what all of our couples had to say? What do you think about this whole craziness between Nate and Justin? And yeah, we saw the previews for next week. It isn't over. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.